Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast with two guys in their 20s giving their perspective on the games that we love and the story behind it all. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. How's it going?
It's going pretty good, man.
That's good.
Sorry, I missed last week, man. I was a bit under the weather.
Oh no, we definitely understand that. It was a good episode, and there's kind of been this current string. Every time I've done an interview, you haven't been you haven't been present, but hopefully that streak can be broken. In
Yeah,
the
hopefully, because I was really upset that I didn't get to indulge the conversations about Bobby. And I really wanted to, like, I had a couple questions for him
yeah,
as a
you're gonna
Miami.
ask like his top 10.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to do that, but hopefully we can have him back on the show and chop it up once more
Yeah,
when I'm
definitely.
present. Yeah.
But we have a lot of topics to get into today, as usual. And to start it off, the New Orleans Pelicans have a 3-0 lead versus Portland, and it's been one of those series where, I mean, their defense has been incredible. And going into it, look, they have the best player in the series, and that's always an advantage. But how Drew Holiday and Rondo have played against Lillard and McCollum and kind of, shut them down has been, pretty surprising. And Lillard, he was talking about how they've been trapping the pick and rolls, and it's something he hasn't experienced since kind of the 2016 series versus the Clippers, where the Clippers were trapping him aggressively, but the Portland was still able to win that series with Paul and Blake Griffin going out. But how they're playing and how like Mirotic had 30 points and just the dominant performance that they've been able to exhibit. What are your thoughts on how this series has unfolded?
I think the biggest one you touched on was Drew Holiday. Just Drew Holiday shutting down Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
And I think either the game two or game three, I think Lillard was 2 for 9. And I think he had like 3 or 4 points. And I was like, what's going what's going on? Because I just gave Damian Lillard so much praise that so he was an underrated point guard. I understand that there's trapping him in the pick and roll, but you got to also make your shots. I've seen a couple of shots that he missed, wide open shots. I guess he's rattled. I guess the defense and the morale of the series is getting to him. But you have to play better. There's no excuse. I don't care what they're doing to you. Guys who are on that top tier stage will come out and make big plays. I've seen Kobe Bryant double team, triple team, quadruple team, and still make the shot, still make his points, help his team get better. I've seen Shaq double team, triple team. So guys like that, I've seen Steph Curry shake 5 people on the whole floor and still shoot up a three. So you have to be that guy who's
Yeah.
tenacious and become better. There's no excuse. You had a meeting with the owner. What
Paul
can we do
Allen.
to win? Yeah, you had a meeting with him and you ask, what can we do to get better? You have to be a closer. You have to be that guy. You have to be the leader on the team. If McCollum can do it, no other guy on that team can hold that weight. It's up to you and him. So if both of you guys are off, then you're definitely going to lose. You're 3-0 now. But I think the defense by Drew Holiday is the biggest surprise. Not taking anything from that guy, but I never thought Damian Lillard would be shut down by Drew Holiday.
Yeah, I definitely didn't envision that either. And Lillard, he's had more turnovers than assists and as many, shot attempts as points scored. So it's been one of those. It's been really one of those series where look, they're giving up a ton of points. They're giving up 97.4 points per 100 possessions in the half court. And if we're looking at the regular season, if they were giving up that many points, that would be the sixth worst defense in the regular season. That's the equivalent of the Mavs, Hawks, and Nets. So how they're doing is how they're struggling has really been eye opening. But with
Yeah.
Portland, I look at a team that has a great backcourt, and it kind of makes me reminisce of what the Raptors used to be a couple years ago. Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel as though, in terms of just like, if Lillard and McCollum don't have a good game, they're going to struggle. There's going to be issues, but with them being down in a 3-0 hole, and likely will lose this series for their future, how do you feel as though things are going to be addressed? Do you think the backcourt should be split up? Because I still feel as though the backcourts should stay, but they need more wing scorers. I mean, wing
Mm-hmm.
defenders. Forwards who can shoot better. What are your thoughts on how their future will unfold?
I think he just nailed it. Nailed the no right on top of it. To be honest, man, they need guys who can shoot the three. This is a day and age where the transition of basketball, the IQ of basketball, is going to the 3 point shot. Yes, back in the day, you had Larry guys like Reggie Miller who can shoot the three, but I think the focus point of basketball today is 3 point shooting. Because if you win by 3 point, you can lose by 3 point shooting, but you need those guys who can get on fire. They don't have those guys, and they don't have a bench. I think combined in the last game that had I want to say 15, 20 points coming off the bench.
Yeah,
That's poor. That is completely poor. I always base a team off their bench. I don't care what their starting five is, who they have on the front court, back court. I like a bench. I like Golden State Warriors bench. I like the Houston Rockets bench. Uh, those guys doesn't have a bench. They don't have guys that could come in and take a load off on guys like Damian Lillard and McCollum to take the load off. And I think
yeah,
that's why they're 3. It's multiple reasons why they're down 3-0. They will get swept. I definitely think they'd be swept, but I didn't think they'd be swept by New Orleans Pelicans without DeMarcus Cousins. But Miritic has stepped up into that role to become that guy. But when you have Anthony Davis playing all levels, then it's going to happen. But I think they definitely need a 3 point shooter. They need a guy who's consistently shoot the big shot, and they need a bench, contributing bench. I don't know what you do in the offseason draft. You need a guy who can come off the bench or a guy to start right away for them guys to be a contender.
yeah. And it kind of reminds me of, I mean, of several years ago with Golden State, they had the backcourt of Curry and Monte Ellis, and they broke it up.
Mm-hmm.
They traded Monte Ellis away for Andrew Bogut, and I'm not saying like that's what they're going to do, but it, it really makes you wonder. They've had these kind of early flameouts, these
Yeah.
first round losses, and it really makes you think, it really makes you wonder what the future will entail for them. But last question about this series with the Pelicans and how it almost feels as though Cousins being out has it's never good for we never want injuries, but it
Right.
seems like there's been an enhancement of Davis's strength with what he has around him, with like Ian, with Rondo, Holiday, Mirotic playing well, Etuan Moore, Ian Clark getting open shots. Do you feel as though with their future, does this make things different in how they view DeMarcus Cousins, or is it just look, their guys are just stepping up?
I think guys are just stepping up. I think they take into account of what DeMarcus Cousins wants to do in the next year or so. I don't think he stays. I think they don't coincide together. I think Anthony Davis plays better when he's the only big guy. I'm not taking anything from Miritic or whatever, but when Anthony Davis is the focus point of a basketball team, he plays much better. He has to play better. The weight is on his shoulders. I think he plays better when he has more. I think when DeMarcus Cousins was there, he expected, okay, I don't have to do much. I can still get my points, but I'll let DeMarcus do that because that's his MO. I'm a more of a defensive guy. I can score, but I like playing defense more than I like scoring. So now he's back into the role that he has to score. He has to pick up big points and play defense. Credible defense. Some of the blocks he's had in the series is incredible. Um, but I don't think DeMarcus Cousins stays. I think he goes and try to go to another team. But I think the experience they have with the Pelicans with Rondo and Drew Holiday and Davis coming up, and Miritic has some experience in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
the experience is kind of helping them out, to be honest. Especially
Mirotic was a
going,
steal. Mirotic was a
yeah,
steal. I mean, we didn't really think, maybe didn't view that with him coming out of Chicago, but he's, he's a pretty good player.
yeah. I like his 3 point ability. See, the big man that can shoot. Oh, I think what's the guy from Miami? Olenek. I
Yeah,
didn't know
Kelly
his
Olynyk.
3 point. Yeah, I didn't think his 3 point ability was that smooth. But they make plays for him to shoot the three ball. That and I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? He has a fluent shot. So like a big guy who can shoot the three, like Miritic and Olenek. Those guys are vital to spreading out there, just like Kevin Love. But the experience on that team, he is a steal. We talked about this. It was one of the topics we
Yeah.
left. Yeah,
Definitely. But so you think they're going to finish it off in the sweep today?
yeah. Anthony Davis is playing on all cylinders. Drew Holiday is still shutting down Damian Lillard. If he doesn't get it going, they lose. They're swept for.
Yeah, I think so as well. But as we were talking about Kelly Olynyk, perfect transition to the Miami Philly series with Joel Embiid coming back after missing 10 games, wearing a mask, mask on, mask off, didn't matter. uh, but he was a difference maker, and he had 23 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and like Miami's attempted shots in the paint, they were much more limited when he was there. Um, in the I think games 1 and game 2, they had 36 and 32 points in the paint. Game 3, they only had 22 points, and then only 6 of those were with Embiid on the floor. But with how he played and his return back, and look, I mean, Philly, they were on an amazing run without him, but
Yeah.
with him, I mean, they're even much better. What were your thoughts with his return?
I think it was you saw a little not fatigue, but you saw a little rust in his dribbling ability, but his shooting was on point. I think he brings that different element on defense too. That you're not just going to drive in and expect to just score every single time when he's down there. When he's not, the presence is no fear there. I think he brings a fear. I think he brings a fear on the backcourt and the front court with his 3 point abilities, creating shots for himself, and allowing the plays to fluctuate as they do in the series. But having him back is a big, I think, you know what? I wanted him to stay out because Ben Simmons has been playing phenomenal basketball. And
Hmm.
I think he's better when he has to be the guy, you know?
Yeah, when he's the aggressor.
When he's aggressive, he can be phenomenal. When he's kind of laid back and he's back to his point guard duties, I think they kind of shift. I think they can win without Joel Embiid. Yeah, they definitely proved that. They proved
In
the
this
first game.
series,
Yeah, I think they can. I think the Philadelphia 76ers is too much. Ben Simmons, you got Markel Fultz playing pretty good now. Uh, Bellinelli is oh he's old, but he's getting the job done, man. I
yeah.
like JJ
JJ
Redick.
Redick,
Yeah,
yeah.
those guys have so much experience and so
Ilyasova.
yeah. So those guys are too much. Joel Embiid is just like the cherry on top, to be honest. But you can see that he had a little rust, but he shook that off real fast, ending I think like 23.7 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean,
Hmm.
that's Joel Embiid for you.
Yeah, and Justice Winslow for Miami, he had a pretty good performance in the first half. 4 threes, a career playoff high, 19 points off the bench. For Miami, do you feel as though they should play him more? What do you think Miami should do to counter what? Because and one of the things I want to get to is Hassan Whiteside. He has
Yeah.
been extremely ineffective. There's been the issue with just there was a thing that with Embiid coming back, people thought he would play better because it would demand more out of him, but it really hasn't been that way. What are your thoughts on first Winslow and then Whiteside?
Winslow, he's been playing great basketball. He's a great defender more than anything. I seen a block Joel Embiid shot. I seen him send back a couple more guys shots. I think he's the guy who's underestimated when it comes to paint guard and guarding in the paint. But to go to Whiteside, I think he has to be smarter in his play. I think he had 4 fouls in the third quarter, which made him sit out a little bit. I think they have to be smarter. I think they have to utilize him more, utilize the pick and roll with him and Dragic, yes. Utilize the pick and roll more. Give him the ball. I don't think Joel Embiid can handle him down there. He has to protect the ball more. He's looking a little sloppy in the paint. I think that last game not trying to make mistakes and get fouls or whatever that kind of took his mindset and his focus out of the game. So this game he has to refocus, play
Yeah,
smart, play aggressive
yeah,
because those guys will eat you alive. But he just has to play better. I think him being almost fouling out got in his head a little bit and played a role into him not playing to his full potential. But yeah, they have to utilize the pick and roll more, definitely, and make shots, make big shots.
yeah, definitely. That's going to be pretty critical for them going ahead. Another series, well, I mean, another performance by a rookie in the playoffs because this has been, I mean, with the rookies in these playoffs, they've been pretty impressive. Like with Mitchell,
Mm-hmm.
Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, it's been pretty impressive, a pretty impressive showing from them. But Donovan Mitchell, he's had a pretty phenomenal start. He's scored a combined 55 points in his first few playoff games, and he scored 13 of 28 points in the fourth quarter. Westbrook and this is a pretty staggering. Westbrook, George, and Anthony were combined over 14 in the fourth, and his he had the foot injury before, so he's kind of questionable going in, but was able to put on a phenomenal performance in the fourth quarter. And he also had help from Ricky Rubio. He had 22 points, 9 assists. Derek Favors, 20 points, 16 rebounds. Rudy Gobert had a pretty effective game with 13 points, 15 rebounds. But Mitchell, with what he did, he scored more points as a rookie guard in league history, even more than Michael Jordan. He was the previous leader for that. So
Mhm.
pretty gaudy, a pretty gaudy category right there. But what are your thoughts on how Mitchell has played and just kind of how this series is kind of transitioned to Utah?
I think he's showing people that he can be an all-around basketball player. Just because he could dunk and he has an incredible vertical doesn't mean he can't play the basketball. I think the most incredible thing about him, he can create his own shot. He's a slasher. He's versatile in the air. He can pause in the air for a long time, and he's so shifty with his moves. He can go left, he can go right. It's just a lot to his game that has improved throughout the season. We talked about him early in the season how he's kind of improving the entirety of the basketball team. Now he's improving his own game. Now he can shoot the big three. He can create shots inside the paint, and he can finish. That's the most incredible thing for a rookie guard is to finish
Yeah,
at the rim. He's not a big guy, but he can finish at the rim. That's what I like to see out of guards, and that's why he scored 28 points. Beat out Michael Jordan for his rookie season points in the playoffs. The guy is becoming a star. And that's what I think Utah Jazz haven't had a star in a long time. I mean, Hayward, he's not there, but they haven't had a star in a long time. A guy who could bring people in and to give them a show. But his all around, I think he's proving people that he can be an overall basketball player. Excuse me. And I'm impressed. To be
yeah.
honest, I'm very impressed by his play. If he continues this up, Utah Jazz can be a force to be reckoned with in in the future year to come. If they bring more people in, I think they get back to old days with Karl Malone.
Do you think with Gordon Hayward? I mean, I think Mitchell was a 13th pick coming in, but do you
Hmm.
feel as though let's say Gordon Hayward stays
Hmm.
and they still draft Mitchell? Do you think Mitchell doesn't have the same amount of experience? Do you think that Quinn Snyder doesn't trust him as much because he's the leading scorer on this team? Do you feel as though his enhanced experience wouldn't be as much without with Hayward on this team?
I think it would be a different team with Hayward. He's a different player. I don't think they have that type of player. I think that's where they drafted Mitchell because Mitchell is the sort of kind of player Hayward is, but even better, to be honest. Hayward can shoot the three, he can finish at the rim, but he's a quicker slasher than Hayward. I think he kind of transitioned and put himself in the position what Hayward was. I think if Hayward was still on the team, I think he'll be more of a contributor than an actual scorer, to be honest. And you probably come off the bench. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it'll be a different team with Hayward on the squad, to be honest. That's
And I
just
feel yeah, and I feel as though that can be the same thing that can be said for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They may
mhm.
not have had more, as much experience and as much, crunch time play with Hayward on, but with OKC and how they, Paul George had a great game in game one, scoring 36 points. But game two, it was, they had that lead. Um, the Jazz come back and just the combined 0 for 14 from the big three. Carmelo, I mean, I guess you can call it a big three. We talked about how Carmelo is kind of, you know, to me, Steven Adams is kind of the third best player on that team. But
Whoa, whoa, that is no small feat, man. That is incredibly. Are you going to stand by that statement?
I'm saying for this particular team, that's just what I feel.
Okay,
Because
I mean,
um, and it's not taking anything away from Carmelo, but like when Carmelo doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot, and he's got to be a screen setter and a finisher, that's not his like preferred role to be in, and
no,
so he's having to accept that. But is that where we can really see Carmelo like at his like full max? And that's kind of what my question is. Nothing against like what Carmelo can do as a scorer, but I'm saying for this particular team, I feel like Adams has like a more productive input than
yeah,
Melo can have. That's all I'm saying. It's nothing like against Melo.
I agree. I agree. They don't need full max Melo. They need role player Melo.
Right.
They need it. Yeah, they don't need full max. Full max Melo is an isolator, and he's a bit of a ball hawk. Full potential max Carmelo
Yeah.
Anthony, and max Carmelo Anthony doesn't win basketball games, so they need a role player. They need role player. They don't need hoodie Melo. They don't need none of that. They need a role player, play a role, rebound. If you have the open shot on a 3-point line, shoot it, but don't force any shots. Don't isolate because they don't need you to isolate. They need
Yeah,
role
definitely.
player Melo. Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that I'm just talking about in this particular situation with Adams, just what he can input more for this particular team. But with how the big three struggled, what were your thoughts on? Because OKC, they're kind of a team that like at their peak they can beat the best teams in the league, and then where they're not playing so good, they struggle. What are your thoughts on where they're at right now?
To be honest, all these guys are playing big minutes, so it's not like they're not on the court. So they have every opportunity to make a difference. Like you said, they had a big third quarter, then they let them come back. Utah outscored them 28-16 in game two. It has to be on the back. It has to be on the defensive side. I mean, what else is it? If you allow a team to outscore you 28-16 and to beat you 102 to 95, and you were skating, to be honest. Similar, I know we're get to Cavaliers and seeing what the Cavaliers did in the last game.
Yeah,
I feel like they got to play better defense. That's the biggest thing. Got to play better defense. They moved the ball around. It wasn't a big score in this game. Everybody was under 20 points. Even the bench contributed to some, but just got to play better defense. These guys are playing big minutes. George played 43. Melo played 38. Russ played 37. Just got to play better. Play better defense. Can't
yeah.
give up 28 points in the fourth quarter. I think that's the most. I think that's the thing we talked about most. You have all these scorers on this team, but only one guy plays big defense, and that's Paul George. So
And they're
just
miss
defense.
and Andre Robertson. The loss of
Yeah,
Andre Robertson was I still feel
huge.
as though it was a huge loss. I know the free throws and kind of fouling him a lot can be a liability, but what he does as a wing defender, I mean, it was pretty big for them because they were like a top five defensive team earlier in the year and they kind of dwindled down. So that was definitely a big loss. But it'll be interesting to see their defense can improve as they head into Utah. Um, the Indiana Pacers, I mean, I should say Cleveland, they had a 17-point lead in Game Three of the first half versus the Pacers, and they blew that lead. Um, and Bogdanovich had 30 points, um, and it was just an effort where the second half, I mean, they were really on a tear. Um, Love only had, I think 19 points. He only took one shot after halftime before the late desperation three. Um, Jeff Green kind of struggled in the game. Rodney Hood only 8 points, but with how Indiana played and just even with the game two performance, LeBron had 46 points, 12 rebounds, but they still barely won that game. And Oladipo had a pretty good look for a three that could have sent it into overtime. And with how the game is going, how the series is going currently, and how the role players for the Cavs haven't been playing consistently. They played good in the first half for Game Three, but what are your thoughts on where the series is right now and the comeback the Pacers had?
They're in trouble.
Yeah,
Cavaliers are in trouble. If you get first half, the guys play. They don't finish. They don't finish basketball games, and this happened uh, in the regular season when they played them, and they let them come back to win by two. Ironically,
yeah,
they don't finish basketball games, and I don't know. I just it's baffling, man, because they have the necessary weapons to make it to the finals, but they don't finish basketball games. Players Kevin Love had an outstanding first half. The second half, like you say, he shoots one time where he doesn't shoot at all. And
yeah,
then George Hill had 11 points. He was aggressive, and he stopped being aggressive in the second half. LeBron James is going to be LeBron. Once LeBron feels like, okay, I don't have to be that aggressor, then I'm gonna pull off. and they were sloppy. They were really sloppy with the basketball, and the offense seemed sloppy. The defense, it was just a sloppy game. The second half was sloppy. They don't finish.
Yeah,
This basketball team doesn't finish at all this year. Every
it's
other
really
year they
perplexing.
finish. Yeah,
It's really perplexing.
LeBron has never lost the first game in the final, not the finals, but in the playoffs. That can tell you something. And the guy had to score four. I think he had 3 minutes to breathe the first
Yeah,
game.
I
Second
mean
game, he had to
the first
pick.
after the first game, he's like, I didn't envision playing 43 minutes our first game, and that even wasn't enough. He doesn't usually talk about the amount of minutes he has to play, but him expending this amount of energy this early
Mm-hmm.
is pretty revealing.
Yeah, it's very revealing. Maybe the moves. I knew the moves they did in the trade deadline or whatever wasn't enough to sustain them. They will not win the finals this year. They might not even go. If they can't get past Victor Oladipo, which is a great
Yeah,
basketball player, then they can't get past
the Raptors.
or Raptors or any other team, or even in the West, they can't beat
It,
the
is
Warriors
this
right now or the Rockets.
is this what you were seeing when you were talking about you didn't feel as convinced with this Cleveland team? Is it like all of like what has recently happened? Is it kind of manifested itself into like this is why you weren't as sold on them? Because I mean, the series is they can get back in the series, but is this
Right.
kind of a little bit of a snapshot of what you were seeing?
Yeah, most definitely. And the reason being they don't have the same basketball team. It resembles a little bit. They have Kevin Love, Kyle Korver. I don't know why they're not utilizing Kyle Korver. Is Kyle Korver out or is he injured?
No, he's in.
He
They
they're not utilizing him. Hood is I guess the off bench 3 point shooter, but he's not hitting. They don't have a Kyrie Irving. They don't have a guy who can score when LeBron doesn't want to score.
they
I
don't have
think
a
that's the
secondary
difference.
scorer off. They don't have a secondary scorer off the dribble. Like
No,
they do not have that.
at all. Rodney Hood has to be a set shooter. He can't shoot off the dribble. J.R. Smith can, but he's inconsistent. We don't know what J.R. Smith is going to get. The moves
Yeah,
they
that last
made
play was
were
interesting. That last play was
yeah,
interesting. You had
yeah.
LeBron to pass to Jordan Clarkson in the corner. I'm not. It's a quick decision maker, but when you look at it, like LeBron was clearly pointing to Jordan Clarkson, like pass to the corner, but Smith was like, "No, I'm good. I think this
I
attempt
want
at
to be
three will be a
great.
lot better."
I want to be great. Let me be great, LeBron. But they don't have. I think that's the difference. They don't have a scorer like you said who can create his own shot. Clarkson is still a young guy. Nance Jr. is not a big guy. Like they don't have enough. They don't have enough to sustain them. They don't. If they make it, I'll be surprised if they make it out of this series. They
Wow.
can't stop Victor Oladipo. They can't. I mean, he had a bad game. Not a terrible. He had a bad first half.
And the Pacers do look like the better team right now. I mean,
They do.
I don't think that's a stretch. They do look like the better team. Like obviously the Cavs are the best player on the in the series, best player in the world, but right now the Pacers look like the better team.
They have every opportunity. I think. What's the guy's name? From not inside the NBA, but on TNT with Shaq, Charles Barkley,
Kenny Smith.
uh, Kenny Smith. Thank
Yeah.
you. Kenny said something interesting. He was like, Pacers are the better team and they have more opportunities to win, but it's up to them to find those opportunities in the game. And I think they did that the second half.
Yeah.
They're overall better team, like you just said. They are. But if they don't find the opportunities and the chances in the game, they will lose. But if they do, they will outplay the Cavaliers. They can't. LeBron can't beat everybody. LeBron can't block everybody's shot.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not LeBron's fault.
No.
LeBron has at one point scored 12 straight points to get them back into the game, and that still wasn't enough. And one of the things with I don't know why, but this series in any way remind because remember the I think it was in 2009 when the Cavs played the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals, and LeBron hit that game winning three with like I don't know zero point 0.9 seconds against the Magic. They won game two. Then the Magic go on to win in six, and it feels like one of those series where like I mean in that series LeBron averaged 38 points, did everything he could, but it still wasn't enough. Does it feel like one of those series where it may turn out like LeBron is doing everything, had a triple double in game one, had a 46-point outing in game two, 28 points in game three? Do you feel as though it may be one of those series where it's just not enough?
Right now, I think yes. He doesn't have enough. I don't think even Michael Jordan can get out this series.
Yeah.
I it's not enough. It's simple like print it, not enough. Cavaliers don't have enough. I think that's to be the headlines after this. I don't think they make it out the series, and that's crazy to say when LeBron James is on the team, but he doesn't have a Kyrie Irving. He doesn't have a Robin. He doesn't have a PB and J. He
Yeah.
doesn't have that. He doesn't have the sidekick anymore. J.R. Smith is not a sidekick. Kevin
Yeah.
Love is not a sidekick. Kevin Love is even sporadic. He's not the same Kevin Love that he was with the Timberwolves. So, but yeah, it's not enough. It might be that it perhaps it can be that series where they get beat out. I don't see it. LeBron has to score 70. But then if they do win out this series, then they have to go right back in another series. You have to
With the
do it all over
Raptors.
again.
And
Yeah,
that's the thing.
that's
If they make it out of this series, the Raptors series may be really bad. Like
really really bad.
it may be like one of those series where you may have been better suited than to just struggle with Indiana than get blown out the water by Toronto. But I don't know. It really does feel like one of those series where Indiana is the better team. But like you said, if they can take opportunities, like I feel like Game 4 is kind of a pretty vital game for Indiana because Cleveland will feel pretty good going headed back tied up to Cleveland 2-2. But Game 4, I think Indiana could really kind of not obviously not significantly or just finalize it, but have a pretty good percentage to win the series.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Um, Transitioning to the NFL, Lamar Jackson, he's coming quarterback from Louisville, two phenomenal seasons, a Heisman win, and one of a former GM, Bill Polian, said in February about Jackson that maybe he should switch to wide receiver, and the fact that he's a really good dual threat quarterback, has a lot of intangibles, and there's been the question about can he be like a drop, a quarterback staying in the pocket, reading through his progressions, all of those things, but there's been a plethora of quarterbacks that have been dual threat. Franz Harkington, Roger Staubach, Doug Flutie, Steve Young, and there really weren't. They had successful careers, but with Jackson and the perceived notion that maybe he should switch positions, like Bill Polian said, or just people not scouts not really buying into what he's done. What are your thoughts on how he can transition to the league?
It's going to be extremely difficult for him unless he finds a team who has a similar scheme to his college days at Louisville. Teams such as only like three or four teams have that system. Eagles have the RPO that he can run. Uh, the Panthers have a similar option run pass RPO thing kind of going on too with Cam Newton. But I think they're looking at his mechanics as quarterback. He has a big arm, but he's not accurate. He's more accurate deep ball, which is ironic. He's not more accurate in the short mid range. Um, he doesn't have a pocket presence. He does. It's just he lacks the mechanics for a quarterback. The biggest upside is his athleticism, and that's why I think they say they need to switch to wide receiver or slot wide receiver. And then and also as a knack, he's not a big guy. He's not a. I think he's too. He's a skinny guy. He's a slim, skinny guy. He's 6'3". He's tall enough to be quarterback. He just doesn't have the mechanics to be quarterback. But I think if he goes to a system or a team that's willing to groom him to be a quarterback, he can be that. He can be a good quarterback, a decent quarterback in the NFL. But it's to a point where our teams are willing to bring a kid up, or they're willing to go get a kid who already has the intangibles to be a starting quarterback for a team. I don't think somebody wants to draft a backup quarterback. Well, some teams. I mean, some teams in the later years of the quarterback situation, like Tom Brady. Uh, but he lacks the mechanics for a quarterback. I've watched countless film on him. He doesn't step into his throws. He's inaccurate. He's shaky in the pocket. Um, but he can be a decent quarterback if given the time
Yeah.
and the steward, somebody to give him the ropes, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, and it's like with Michael Vick in 2004, um, when Jim Moore came in and he tried to integrate a West Coast offense, pass oriented, and all of those things. Vic didn't really do that. He didn't really accept it as much. I mean, he talked
Mhm.
about like he didn't study, he didn't read the playbook. Um, it just wasn't one of those things that worked. And I feel as though if Jackson is in a similar situation where he's in a West Coast pass oriented offense, it's not really going to be that good. And an author of The Art of Small Football, Chris Brown, he says, quote, one of the critiques is he's a spread offense quarterback, which doesn't make sense at all. He played for a former NFL head coach, an offensive coordinator. They basically run Tom Coughlin's offense. And I mean, Jackson, he threw 15% of his passes at or behind the line of scrimmage, which is a lower percentage than any top quarterback prospect in the draft right now. But were there in the 2016 game versus Clemson, he did kind of read through his progressions more and was more even when the offensive line collapsed, he still stayed in the pocket. Um, in a game like that, did you get any glimpses of okay, maybe he can make a step to the next level, or was it still like you still kind of had questions about it?
Still have a question because one game doesn't solidify you having a pocket presence.
Right,
Um, I think he has the ability. Any quarterback or any player has the ability to improve his game. Look at Jalen Hurts; he improved his pocket presence, but he still has a lot of work to go. But just because you did it one game, scouts look at multiple games, full games, every series, how you read through your progressions, your accuracy. Are you throwing the guy open? Are you anticipating him to be open? The small mechanics that make good quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, the list goes on. The small mechanics of quarterbackism. That's probably not a word, but we're gonna go with it. But he lacks that. And it's a couple quarterbacks in the they have their strengths. Every quarterback, Baker Mayfield has his strength. Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Lamar, all these guys have strengths, but all of them has weaknesses as well. Baker
right.
Mayfield, I think his biggest knack is he's short. He's a short quarterback. Um, I think that's his only biggest knack. He's an accurate quarterback. He can throw the big ball. I think his other knack is I don't think he can throw the big ball accurately. But everything short, mid range, he doesn't make big mistakes. Josh Allen has a big arm. Okay, I'm getting off subject. But oh wow. But I don't know, man. It's interesting to see how they utilize Lamar. Yes, he was in the. I think look at Robert Griffin, who's a dual threat quarterback, excelled his first year because they had the option base with the Shanahan's. But
Mm,
then once Jay came in and introduced the West Coast kind of offense like he did with the Bengals, RG3, they started showing weakness and showing his things that he need to work on, and that's why I think he also with injuries, then he lost his starting position because he wasn't equipped for that type of offense. So
yeah.
the only reason Lamar will be successful is he goes to the offense that suits him. Okay, why are you barking? It suits him, but there's only a couple teams that can do that, and they have to want him.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one of those things where he has to go to a he has to be in a situation where it's kind of tailor made for him. If it's not, then that's kind of going to kind of be where the struggle is. He's thrown a
Yeah,
lot of passes off target. Um, had a 59% completion percentage, but
with 10 interceptions.
yeah. So definitely a struggle there. Transitioning to another prospect, Saquon Barkley. He's pretty the number one running back in this draft class. In 2017, he rushed for 1,271 yards and 632 receiving yards. And I mean, an explosive runner. The size, the speed, the body control, all those elements are phenomenal. But in this draft class, and now he'll fare versus other running backs, and just how high he'll go, and what his perceived future will be in the league. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's a good running back, and he's a dual threat running back who has the ability to. He has the burst to make the big plays down the field, make big runs. But I think he's a little overrated.
Mm,
I, I'm not big on Saquon Barkley. I am not. I'm big on guys like Nick Chubbs and Sony Michelle who shared the load and still have more rushing yards than him, and who contributed in the pass game just like him, or the guy from uh shoot, I always forget his name, from Alabama. Not Bo Scarborough, but he stayed. I think, which is a great opportunity for him to show that he can still please stay 4 years and he can be the guy. His name slips my mind, but I'm going to move on because his numbers weren't impressive to me. In big
Yeah.
games, he didn't show up. The later of the season, he didn't show up. I don't know if he was plagued by injuries or anything. He had all this hype during. I think that's what kind of slipped him off from winning the Heisman.
Hmm.
He's a great running back. He's a good running back. He can fit in any scheme. West Coast, I formation, whatever, RPOs, whatever the case may be, he can fit in that. But I think he's a bit overrated. I think guys like Ronald
Oh,
Jones,
Damian Harris. Damian Harris. Is
yeah,
that what you're talking
thank you,
about? Okay.
Damian Harris, thank you, Damian Harris, guys like that who had the same amount of yards and he had to share the load. Nobody
Right.
shares a load with Saquon Barkley. All these guys, Darius from LSU, Ronald Jones, Royce Freeman, who's a good running back for Oregon. I think he's a bit overrated. I think he is. He has the body frame. I think that's what scouts like. He has the body frame. He's 6 foot. He runs a subpar 4.4. He can catch out the backfield. He can do all the things. But other guys can do that too. But well, yeah. But I think
Yeah.
he'll be the first running back that come off the board though, most definitely because they're infatuated with his abilities, his potential, and the intangibles. I think other guys have the same abilities he has. But who am
So
I to
so
judge?
so other guys like Nick Chubb, Sony Michelle, is it the fact they're like kind of more of like power runners, more downhill, and like you said, that they shared the load. Do you feel like there
Mm-hmm.
was just one of those things with Penn State? All their offense was just they ran it through Saquon Barkley, and do you feel as though that was kind of too much for to get an accurate depiction of what he can actually be in the league?
Who, Saquon or
Yeah,
Chubbs and
Saquon.
Michelle? I
Saquon.
think they lived and died by Saquon.
Yeah, it
I
showed in the
think
latter half of the season.
they did. If he wasn't successful in the run game, then he was sort of successful in the pass game. But in the later games, it kind of dwindled, and then their big time play abilities that was
Hmm.
created by Saquon was there no more. Uh, that was their whole team. Now you look at guys like Nick Chubb, who was injured, who would have broke or surpassed Leonard Fournette in the rushing record, or not the rushing record, the rushing title of the year. He got injured. This guy, that's the only knack I have on him. Is he durable? But he's a guy. He's a bowling ball type guy. He's 5'11". He's not a short guy, but he
Right.
can. I think he's shifty, but he's more downhill. He's not a east to west type of runner. I like downhill runners. I like guys. He can break through tackles. He moves his feet after the first contact. And Sony Michelle is a bruiser, but also he's elusive. He's shown that countless times last year, and he had to share the ball as well. So those guys who know how to share the ball, because I don't think any of these guys will start per se right away. I think these guys have to learn how to share the ball, and I think Sony Michelle and Nick Chubbs already have that ability to do that because they've done it in college and they stayed all 4 years. So I like
Right.
guys who stay all 4 years and get that football IQ and be able to be ready for the next level. But all these guys are good. But
Yeah.
Saquon would definitely be the number one running back coming off the board, though.
Yeah, I definitely think so. There are a lot of good running backs available. Um, the New England Patriots, they've had an interesting offseason with trades that they've made, and now the news with Brady. Adam Schefter reported from ESPN that Brady has not committed to play in 2018 yet, and it's one of those things where like we know Brady's not going to play forever. Eventually, they're going to have to move on, but they have two first round picks, two second round picks, and a third rounder, so they can make a move for a quarterback if it comes down to that. But with everything that's going on with New England, I don't think Gronk has reported to OTAs yet, and that's not a you know something that doesn't that is obscure or never happens. But with the news of Brady not committing to play yet, and what New England has kind of the position New England has been in for the offseason, what are your thoughts on their future going ahead?
Without Tom Brady, it's going to be a definitely hit. Um, I think Tom is a phenomenal quarterback who can make anybody look good. But without him, I think it'll be a hard transition. So they will have to draft a quarterback. They will draft a quarterback. Brian Hoyer is not a quarterback that I feel comfortable to lead that much history and much that type of caliber team, if you will. I don't think
Yeah.
Hoyer can do that. He's not that type of quarterback. So I know they will draft a quarterback, but to draft who, I'm not sure. Uh, a lot of speculation say they'll draft Baker Mayfield because he stay all 4 years. He has an IQ. He doesn't make big mistakes, and he can fit in the scheme of Bill Belichick. Uh, some people say Josh Allen. It's a lot of speculation. I think they'll be fine. They have enough. Like they have a great wide receiver core without Gronkowski. It's now Dwayne Allen who has experience, and they could draft another tight end to fit in that scheme. Defensive wise, they'll probably draft another linebacker and a couple of DBs and a D tackle. Um, but without Tom Brady, it will be a hit. Their identity will shift. When Tom Brady decides to retire, it's going to be like a I don't know. They don't want to go down. They don't want to be like in
Hmm.
a slump, but it'll
Yeah.
be you will know the difference between any other quarterback because Tom Brady has been consistent ever since he got the starter role for Blitzo. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's really kind of the position where it seems like they're gonna have to prepare for a long term future for another quarterback and get ready for the eventual departure. But every time this issue comes up with a quarterback, it just always makes me think of Jimmy Garoppolo and what could have been if they would have stuck with him and had that in their future. Obviously, with Belichick and Robert Kraft, they didn't see eye to eye there. But do you really think that is something that they're going to regret going forward, or is it one of those things where they can still maneuver even without a quarterback like that for the future?
it's a bit of both. I think
Yeah.
Jimmy was a special type of player because they've had multiple players come throughout uh, the organization. Tyler Murphy, Jimmy Garoppolo, other guys that I don't need to mention, but I think they regret it. I think they regret it if Jimmy has a great year next year.
Yeah, how he does in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he won the last 4 games, but can he do it for a whole 16 games? He's undefeated now in his record. He hasn't lost the game, but can he do it for 16 games at the starting quarterback position? Is he durable? Even when he had the reins from Brady, he got hurt, so he couldn't finish out his 4 game starting thing. And then Tyler Murphy kind of stepped in and finished the job off for him. But his durability is in question, and can he be consistent enough to do it next season? If he does, then they'll regret it. I think they regret it a little bit because they know his potential and his abilities, the tangible things. But I think they can find someone else who they draft well. They really
Yeah,
draft well. They
they really
find
do.
these guys. They find these guys and they groom these guys up. Bill Belichick is real. Like even when Nick Chubb's at his pro day, he was helping out Nick Chubb's. He gave him a couple of pointers, and he looked even. He improved that much faster, like in a heartbeat. It was just a simple thing. It was like just you adjust this or align this way, punch this way, and he looked more fluent. So it's just with Bill Belichick still a head coach,
Hmm.
they could put anybody and groom anybody. I think he's a great grooming quarterback coach.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see um, how the future unfolds for them with obviously the uncertainty of what's going to happen with Brady. But uh, for me, Brady will probably come back. Um, it'll be really hard for me to envision Brady retiring, but you never know. I mean, he's 40. The wear and tear of football, but I mean, he's you know built up his body and the endurance that he's had, and the amount of time he's put into the TB12 method and just building up your body because he says he feels better now than he did like when he was 20, 27 or 25. So the regimen that he's had has definitely been incredible, but it's going to be interesting to see what decision he makes for this upcoming season. Um, our last topic for today is Jalen Hurts, and the last few years he's 26-2 as a starter. this past national championship, they brought in Tua Tagovailoa to just kind of because they were in a hole. They struggled against Georgia. Hurts wasn't effective at all, and they made the switch to Tua Tagovailoa, who went on to win the national championship for them. And their Jalen Hurts' father said if this past Thursday, he told Bleacher Report's Matt Hayes that if Hurts doesn't get the starting job, he's going to transfer. He's going to go to another school, and it puts the quarterback position for Alabama at an interesting position. What are your thoughts on the comments and how the future will unfold for the quarterback position in Alabama?
Well, I guess I'll start by saying what address what Nick Saban said about the accusations or the statement by Jalen's father. Said he had a meeting with him after the spring game. Said it was very positive.
Mm-hmm.
They talked things out. They kind of addressed him to certain things. They feel comfortable with Jalen, and his family feels comfortable with Alabama. I don't think he goes anywhere. I think Jalen, he has that knack of just doing what the team needs, and I think it showed in the national championship game. He didn't pout. He didn't do anything. He kind of, you know, back to a say, look, man, you go out there and do what you got to do for the team. He didn't. Most guys would have
Yeah, he said
took their
go out and ball, go out and ball.
yeah. He would have took his pads off or sat on the sideline, pouted on the sideline, and not been a team player. I think that's what a lot of people. I know his dad may say that, but at the end of the day, this is his life, his decision. I
Mm-hmm.
know his family has a role in that decision, but I think Jalen stays whether he wins or not because Tua was injured. I think he injured his thumb or his hand or something like that
Yeah, in spring
before spring.
practice.
Yeah. So you never know what happens. And you don't want to wish injuries on anybody, but you don't leave because adversity is looking at it in the face like, I'm not letting you in. So I don't think he's that type of player, that type of guy. I think his his persona is different than what it's been portrayed by his father's statement. We all know some fathers kind of, act out of aggression and
Yeah,
anger
LeVar
because their
Ball.
son. Yeah, that's the number one guy now, LeVar Ball.
That's just the number one. Like whenever you hear about a dad who's intervening, you're like LeVar Ball.
It got to be Lamar. What Lonzo do this? What Lonzo didn't do this time? Lamar is coming out of nowhere. Like Michelangelo. I'm just saying. But no, like, um, I don't think he leaves. I think he stays, and I think Nick
Yeah.
Saban is persuasive enough to get him to stay. I think he doesn't need to go anywhere else. There's a couple teams might have him, but you still got to sit out and do different things. It's just too much on you. This your junior year, and you know how to face adversity. You wasn't. You was a third string quarterback
Mm-hmm.
like 2 years ago, and then you got the starting role versus USC, and you balled out. You was SEC uh,
Player of the
player of
year.
the year. So just be be comfortable in who you are. Work at the tangibles. Work at the little small mechanics, and then don't leave because you're not better than the other quarterback. I think he stays up. I think he's that just
Yeah,
doing smart.
he's the type of quarterback, like you said, he just goes along, like he's gonna do what's best for the team.
Yeah.
He doesn't do he just kind of like the he goes along with things the way a coach would want their quarterback to go along with things. He didn't cause a scene when he was benched for the national championship game. He was very encouraging to I mean very supportive of Tua, and that was a great thing to see. It says a lot about his character and type of player he is. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. But like you said, he'll probably stay because that's the
Yeah.
type of person and player that he is.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up for today. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. This has been Full Scope. See you later.